The night was unlike any other. It felt heavy, suffocating, pressing into my skin, whispering something was terribly wrong. Anna stood at the edge of the empty street, staring at a closed warehouse on the far end of the block. It looked abandoned, with broken windows like hollow eyes and a rusted sign that swayed gently in the breeze. She promised herself she would never return. She had promised herself she would never return to this place again. But promises, she learned, are just fragile, shaking words. Her palm held onto the small flashlight in her hand, his beam flickering, weak and trembling as if scared too. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, but she didn't need to look because she knew the voice. It was the same voice from all the nights, the one that asked, "Come back." She had fought it for hours, pacing in her room, telling herself there was nothing there. It was just a memory or a hallucination from too many sleepless nights. But when she closed her eyes, the whispers grew louder and clearer, almost beckoning her to come back. Now, here she was, walking closer to the building's entrance, every sound amplified in the quiet. The single beam from a streetlight buzzed overhead, its weak light casting a pale, sickly glow on the weeds and vines, growing through the concrete. The building's cold breath seeped into her skin. She almost turned back in fear. Almost. But something else whispered, "No, don't go." And the voice echoed against the empty street, coming closer and closer until it felt like it brushed against her ear. "No," she whispered, her voice cracking. "I shouldn't be here." But the building disagreed. It swallowed her words, sending them back in another distorted echo that made her skin crawl and scream. In the midst of the fear and the dread, she knew and accepted that this was only the beginning. The door slammed shut behind her. The sound was sharp, final, like the building itself had decided to trap her inside. Anna froze, her breath caught in her throat, her flashlight trembling in her hand. For a moment, there was only silence. Heavy, suffocating silence. Then, somewhere in the distance, something shifted. A faint scrape of metal against concrete, like something being dragged. Her pulse hammered in her ears. "Hello?" Her voice cracked in the darkness. No answer. The beam of her flashlight wavered as she took a step forward, her shoes crunching softly over broken glass. Every sound echoed, bouncing off the hollow walls and returning to her, warped and distant. The air felt different now, colder, heavier. Like the moment before a storm, when the world seems to hold its breath. She swallowed hard and moved again, her steps slow, deliberate, but her hands shaking. Then, creak, the sound came from above, from the rusted catwalk high above the floor. She tilted her head back, the flashlight cutting through the dark. Rusted beams, peeling paint, empty rafters. Nothing. Her skin prickled with electric fear. "Anna!" The voice again, clearer, closer. She spun around, the flashlight slicing wildly through the shadows, catching piles of rotting wood, broken crates. And in the far corner, a door slightly ajar. Its edges were blackened, warped, as though fire had once licked its frame. Her throat tightened. Every instinct screamed at her to leave, but her legs betrayed her. Step by step, she crossed the warehouse floor until she stood in front of that old door. Her breath came shallow and uneven as she reached for the handle, her fingers trembling. The door groaned open, revealing a narrow staircase spiraling down into blackness. The cold hit her instantly, sharp and unnatural, seeping under her skin like icy needles. She hesitated at the top step, the flashlight's glow barely piercing the darkness below. "Why am I here?" she whispered. And then, a thought that wasn't hers. "Because you were meant to be." Her knees weakened. She clutched the railing, heart racing. This wasn't real. It couldn't be. But it was. Step by step she descended, each step heavier, slower, echoing through the narrow stairwell like a countdown. By the time she reached the bottom, the air was suffocating, damp, thick, and laced with the sour tang of rust and something faintly sweet. The flashlight flickered, then steadied, revealing a long hallway. The floor glistened with moisture. The peeling walls seemed to breathe with the building. At the far end, a single door stood waiting, and deep down, Anna already knew. She was meant to open it. Anna's flashlight quivered in her hands. its narrow beam slicing through the dark hallway. The air felt heavy here, thick enough to choke on. Every step echoed sharp against the concrete floor, bouncing down the endless corridor like a warning she couldn't quite understand. The smell hit her first, damp and metallic, like rust and something rotting just out of sight. She pulled her sleeve over her nose, but it clung stubbornly, seeping into her skin. The walls were scarred. Long, jagged scratches gouged deep into the concrete, twisting into strange, angular symbols. They weren't random. They were deliberate. Watching her, she slowed, heart pounding in her ears. Then a whisper. "Anna!" It was so soft, so fragile, she almost convinced herself she imagined it. But the air shifted, a cold current sweeping past her, and she knew she hadn't. "Who's there?" she rasped, voice trembling. Silence. Then a sound, the faint drag of a foot against wet floor just ahead. She forced her legs to move, step by hesitant step, until her light trembled over something that made her stomach clench. A figure, just barely visible at the edge of the beam. Tall, wrong, limbs too long, still but not still. Her breath caught. The figure blinked out like a shadow that had never been there. She spun, heart pounding, pulse screaming. The silence pressed closer, thick and suffocating. "You shouldn't be here." This time the voice was sharp, near. Her legs reacted before her mind did. She ran. Each step splashed in the shallow water coating the floor, her flashlight bouncing wildly across the walls as the hallway seemed to stretch, elongating with every desperate stride. The door appeared at the end. Rusted old, but there. She slammed against it, twisting the handle. It didn't budge. "No, please." Her shoulder hit the door once, twice. The third time something gave way. The door groaned open, spilling her into a space even darker, thicker. Her light barely cut into it. The shadows here weren't just shadows. They were alive. And then, from that blackness, the voice again. Calm now, almost warm. "Welcome home, Anna." The darkness enveloped her whole. With her flashlight flickering, Anna braced herself for what lay beyond the walls. The chilly air biting at her skin, she stumbled forward down the empty hallway. "Hey." Her voice squeaked, the darkness amplifying it all. The silence echoed around her, but there was no answer. Her beam of light barely pierced the darkness beside her, making the hollow floor creak beneath her. "Upstairs." The voice seemed out of place, more like a whisper from something she could never have existed. The air seemed to hum along with her as she tried to locate any trace of light. But there was no hope, no exit from this place. The child's laughter struck her like a blow to her ears, louder than ever before. The space around them seemed to shift, as if alive and aware of her presence. This madness was too much, something she couldn't explain. Couldn't just let it be. Instead, she froze with her eyes looking straight into the abyss. The laughter rose again, soft in her ears, almost like music. It hit her face too slowly, like it was hesitant to make itself known. Her flashlight sputtered, just a single ray of brightness, making the hall above appear cold and empty. The door slammed shut with a loud bang, leaving no sound behind. The child, her face hidden in shadow, whispered against her back. "Anna, why do you want?" Fainter, almost dreamlike, the child whispered. Anna stumbled back, caught in the wall before her, bruised and gasping. "Why?" she asked. The laughter whispered itself into silence. Anna shivered with anticipation, unable to move a single step. Her eyes remained fixed on the empty room, searching for an answer that never came. Anna froze, her back pressed hard against the wall. The door had slammed shut, sealing her in with the figure. The room grew impossibly quiet. The kind of quiet that hums in your ears, louder than any scream. Her flashlight trembled in her grip, casting erratic shadows along the peeling walls. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The child didn't move, didn't blink. Then slowly, its head lifted, revealing pale, hollow eyes that glowed faintly in the dim light. Anna's heart stuttered. "Please," she whispered, though she didn't know who she was pleading with. The child. The house or whatever had dragged her into this nightmare. The child tilted its head further, bone cracking audibly in the quiet, and took another step closer. "You shouldn't be here," it said. But this time the voice wasn't just a whisper. It was layered, deep, echoing like multiple voices speaking in unison, a chorus of something not human. Anna stumbled sideways, her shoulder slamming into the wall. "Why? What do you want from me?" Her voice broke, sharp with terror. The child blinked, its gaze unblinking and cold. "You were chosen," the voices said together. The floor beneath her feet shifted suddenly, boards groaning and twisting as though the house itself was moving. Her flashlight flickered violently, throwing fractured light across the room, and then darkness. Total suffocating darkness. Her breaths came in ragged gasps. Somewhere in the black, soft footsteps moved. Slow, deliberate, circling her. "Stop," she whispered, voice shaking. "Please, just stop." The footsteps paused. Then right behind her ear, the layered voices whispered, calm, chilling. "Welcome back, Anna." Her body locked up, muscles frozen in terror. She couldn't scream, couldn't run. And then, like a switch flipped, the flashlight flared to life. The room was empty. No child, no footsteps, just her standing alone, chest heaving, surrounded by the same suffocating black walls that now seemed closer, leaning in on her. She backed toward the door, hands shaking as they fumbled for the handle. This time it turned easily, and the door creaked open as though it had never been locked. Anna didn't question it. She bolted, running down the narrow hallway, her footsteps thundering through the house. But the house wasn't silent anymore. It groaned, moaned, walls shifting, doors slamming shut in the distance, footsteps pounding in rhythm with her own. She reached the stairs and stumbled down, her body slamming hard into the bottom step, pain shooting up her arm but adrenaline forcing her back to her feet. The front door loomed ahead. Her lungs burned as she sprinted toward it, praying it wouldn't be locked like before. She grabbed the handle, twisted, and froze. The door wasn't locked. It was gone. Just an endless wall of concrete where the exit should have been. Anna stumbled back, her breath catching in her throat. The doorway that had been her only hope, gone. Nothing but a cold, unyielding wall now stood where freedom should have been. No, this isn't real," she whispered, voice trembling. Her palms pressed against the wall, searching desperately for cracks, for seams, for anything that would let her escape. The wall was smooth, solid, trapping her. The house seemed to breathe around her. The low groan of settling wood, the whisper of air moving where there shouldn't have been any. The lights above flickered faintly, but not enough to break the suffocating darkness that bled from every corner. Then that sound again. Footsteps. Slow, heavy, deliberate. They came from behind her, moving with a calm precision that made her blood run cold. She turned, her flashlight shaking wildly in her grip, slicing through the shadows. "Stay away," she hissed, though her voice cracked, betraying her fear. The footsteps didn't stop. The air grew colder with each second. Her breath came out in white, shaky clouds. Then from the darkness, a figure. Not the child this time, taller, broad shoulders. A shape she couldn't fully see, but somehow familiar. "Who are you?" Her voice was barely a whisper now. The figure tilted its head slowly, unnaturally, the same way the child had. "You know me," it said, the voice sharp and jagged, as though scraped through broken glass. "No," Anna said, shaking her head violently. "No, I don't." "Yes, you do." The figure stepped closer, and with every step, the walls seemed to pulse, the floor groaning under its weight. Anna's knees weakened, her grip on the flashlight slipping. "You left," the voice continued. "But you were never supposed to leave." A chill slid down her spine. Memories she couldn't quite reach clawed at the edges of her mind, places she didn't recognize but somehow remembered. "I don't know what you're talking about," she whispered, though her voice faltered, even to her own ears. The figure stopped inches away, a towering shadow that swallowed the weak beam of her light. "You will," it said, "soon." Then nothing. The figure blinked out of existence, leaving only the hollow silence of the house, the oppressive weight of something unseen pressing against her chest. Anna stumbled backward, her flashlight beam darting across the room, searching desperately for movement, for signs, for anything. She ran. Not toward the stairs this time. She didn't even know where her feet were taking her. Down hallways that twisted in impossible angles, through rooms that looked familiar one moment and alien the next. The house was changing, warping around her, trapping her deeper inside its labyrinth. And then, without warning, the whispers started again. First soft, almost kind, then louder, layered. Calling her name, Anna, the whispers grew louder, curling through the air like smoke, wrapping around her until they were the only thing she could hear. "Anna, come back." Her breath quickened. Her hands trembled as she held the flashlight out. Its beam flickering like it too was afraid. Every shadow in the room shifted when the light swept past, like they were alive, retreating just out of reach. "No," she whispered, voice barely audible. "You're not real. None of this is real." But even as she said it, she knew it wasn't true. The house pulsed, alive beneath her feet, as if her denial only fed whatever darkness had taken hold. She spun toward the sound, a soft, childlike giggle echoing through the hallway behind her. It wasn't playful. It was hollow. Wrong. "Why are you running, Anna?" Her pulse hammered in her ears. She stumbled backward, tripping over the warped floorboards, nearly dropping the flashlight. The hallway seemed endless now, stretching impossibly far in both directions, lined with doors that hadn't been there moments ago. Each door stood slightly ajar, blackness spilling through the cracks. And then, the whispers stopped. The silence that followed was worse. The kind of silence that presses against your skin, that hums in your bones, that tells you you're being watched. Her hand shook as she reached for the nearest door. She hesitated, her fingers hovering over the cold brass handle. Something deep inside her screamed not to open it, not to see what waited on the other side, but her curiosity, or maybe something stronger, something pulling her in, won. She pushed it open. The room beyond was small. Too small. A single chair sat in the center, its wooden legs cracked and splintered. The walls were covered in photos, dozens, maybe hundreds, of her. Every one of them showed her in different places, at different ages, moments of her life she'd long forgotten. Some were from years ago, others from minutes ago, captured inside this house. Her breath hitched. Someone had been watching her, following her. Her hand trembled as she reached for one of the photos pinned to the wall. The edges were damp, the ink smudged, but her face was clear. Her eyes, wide, terrified, staring straight ahead, as though she knew someone was taking the picture. And then, a whisper so close it brushed her ear. "Smile." She spun, flashlight swinging wildly, but the room was empty. The photos on the walls rustled as though caught in a breeze. Though the air was still, Anna's chest tightened. She turned and bolted, slamming the door behind her, the sound echoing through the endless corridors as she ran. Every corner she turned, the house shifted. Rooms rearranged. Doors vanished. And through it all, the voice followed, calm and steady now. "You can't run from this, Anna. You can't run from yourself." The air grew colder as Anna ran, her breath sharp and uneven. The hall twisted and turned like a living thing, walls breathing in and out as if the house itself was alive, waiting. Every door she passed whispered her name. Softly at first, then louder. "Anna, Anna, Anna." She stumbled, nearly falling, catching herself against the damp wall. Her fingers brushed over strange carvings etched into the surface, symbols she didn't recognize, deep grooves that pulsed faintly under her touch like a heartbeat. The floor trembled, and then silence. The entire house went still. The whispers stopped. The air, heavy with dread moments ago, turned oppressively quiet. Anna froze, her flashlight beam trembling over cracked wallpaper and warped wooden beams. "Why are you here?" The voice was everywhere now, around her, inside her. She swallowed hard, trying to form words, but her throat was dry, her voice caught somewhere deep inside. Then slowly the house began to change. The hallway melted away, dissolving like smoke until she was standing in a room she didn't recognize, or maybe one she did but had buried deep inside her mind. A child's bedroom. The walls were pale yellow, peeling in places. A small bed sat in the corner, its sheets patterned with faded stars. A broken toy lay near her feet, its plastic head cracked in half. She knew this place. She didn't want to, but she did. "This isn't real," she whispered, shaking her head. "It can't be real." But the room disagreed. Photographs lined the dresser. Not of her as she was now, but as a child. 5, maybe 6 years old, smiling, innocent, unaware. One photo in particular caught her eye. A little girl sitting cross-legged on the very same bed, holding a stuffed rabbit. Her smile was wide, too wide. And her eyes were the same deep brown she saw in the mirror every morning. The girl looked alive, too alive. Then the picture blinked. Anna stumbled back, heart hammering. The shadows in the corners deepened, stretching along the floor, twisting, curling toward her. "You left me," the voice said, softer this time, almost like a plea. "No," she whispered. "I don't even know who you are." The stuffed rabbit on the bed moved. Slowly. Its head turned toward her with a sharp, mechanical snap, glassy eyes reflecting the thin beam of her flashlight. "You do," the voice said again, firmer this time. The walls pulsed, the air humming, vibrating through her chest. She staggered toward the door, but when she yanked it open, there was nothing on the other side. Just blackness, deep, endless blackness. And then, faintly, almost tenderly, "Come home, Anna." The blackness stared back at her, endless and suffocating. Anna froze at the threshold, her knuckles white around the trembling flashlight. The beam cut into the dark for only a second before being swallowed whole. Like light couldn't exist here. Her breath hitched. "No," she whispered, more to herself than to whatever waited beyond. "I can't. I won't." But the house, or whatever was controlling it, didn't care. The floor shifted beneath her feet, tilting forward. She stumbled, grasping for the doorframe, but it wasn't there anymore. Her fingers clawed at empty air as her body pitched into the darkness, swallowed by it whole. The world twisted. It wasn't falling, it wasn't floating, it was something in between, like being ripped apart and stitched, back together at the same time, and then silence. When she opened her eyes, she was standing in a narrow corridor. It was impossibly long, lined with mirrors on either side. Each reflection showed her, but not her. One version had hollow eyes, black and bottomless. Another smiled with sharp, jagged teeth. Another stood perfectly still, her face blurred like a corrupted photograph. "Who are you?" Anna's voice cracked as she took a shaky step forward. The reflections moved even when she didn't. One by one, they tilted their heads, in perfect unison, until every single version of her stared directly at her. "You know who we are," they whispered, voices layered and broken, overlapping until they became one deafening hum. Her chest tightened. "No," she said, shaking her head. "You're not me. You're not real." The mirrors cracked, spiderwebbing with sharp, jagged lines. Her distorted faces bled through the fractures, crawling across the glass like something alive. "Stop it." Her voice was trembling now, a fragile whisper. "Please, stop." But the corridor didn't stop. It stretched, longer and longer, the ceiling pressing down, the walls closing in. The air grew heavy, thick, like breathing through water. Her legs trembled. She tried to run, but her feet wouldn't move. The floor beneath her was slick, sticky. And when she finally dared to look down, her stomach turned. Blood, dark, endless pools of it, seeping from cracks in the ground, swallowing the edges of her shoes. And then, from the far end of the corridor, a shadow began to take shape, tall, unmoving, watching. The mirrors around her shattered one by one, each explosion of glass echoing through the endless space like a scream. She clutched her ears, tears stinging her eyes, but no amount of pressure could block out the sound. "Anna!" Her name drifted through the chaos, calm and steady like a hand reaching out in a storm. She lifted her head, chest heaving, and whispered through trembling lips, "What do you want from me?" The shadow at the end of the corridor didn't move, yet the air around it quivered, heavy with a presence Anna couldn't ignore. It wasn't alive, not like her, but it carried weight, pressing against the fragile space around her. Every choice, every moment, felt as though it had led her here. Anna's hands shook. She wanted to run, to scream, to throw herself against the walls, anything to escape. But her legs were rooted to the floor, invisible chains holding her fast. Who are you?" Her voice barely carried in the oppressive darkness. The shadow bent slightly, acknowledging her. Then a voice came, unfamiliar yet undeniable. "You know me," it said. Memories surged, her parents. The red duffel bag, the betrayals, the fear she had carried for years. I don't understand," she whispered. "You do," it replied. The corridor twisted violently. Mirrors cracked, dissolved into mist. The floor rippled beneath her feet like liquid. The shadow floated forward, never touching the ground. "You left us behind," it said softly. "You were supposed to protect us." Anna shook her head. "No! I did everything I could. I never meant—" "You meant nothing. You protected yourself, them but not us. You abandoned us, again." A cold wind whipped through, carrying whispers she recognized, lost, pleading children. Her heart pounded. She took a tentative step. The shadow recoiled. The voices rose. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't realize—" "You realize now," it said sharply. "And now you face the consequences." Mirrors reflected every version of truth. Her childhood, manipulations, the red duffel bag, near disasters. Each burned into her mind. I'll fix it, she said, barely audible. You can't. What was never yours to hold can't be fixed. But you can choose. Leave or stay and become part of it. The floor shuddered. Shards of mirrors rained down, embedding into walls, air, her skin. Pain flared, but she held on. I choose freedom, she said, voice stronger despite fear. The shadow hesitated, then dissolved, acknowledging her choice. Silence followed. Anna collapsed to her knees, breathing hard. The corridor returned to something like normal. She stood, hands shaking, resolve firm. She would never let shadows of the past control her again. Sunlight spilled through the nearest door, warm, real, tangible. Outside, the world awaited. Anna walked forward, free, in control, leaving the past behind. And that's Anna's story, from fear and betrayal to freedom and empowerment. If this story gripped you, hit subscribe and turn on notifications for more stories where every secret unfolds and every choice matters. Remember, karma always unfolds.